The first reading today contains the familiar story of Noah and the ark, which most of us have known since childhood. It's an incredible and fascinating historical account of the lengths God went to save and redeem mankind from our own wickedness, depravity, and sin. But today I would like to draw your attention to a particular part of the first reading, namely where it said, "I have set my bow in the cloud as a sign of the covenant for all ages to come." And within that part of the reading, it's the word sign that I want to focus on. In 1972, a Canadian rock band named the Five-Man Electric Band wrote a song called Signs. It's a secular song, but there's a line in the chorus that goes, "Sign, sign, everywhere a sign." And that one line describes today's readings perfectly, because in them we can find signs everywhere. But these signs are not like the signs we may first think of, like street signs, billboards, or signs on buildings or businesses, the kind we hardly notice until we're lost or don't know which way to go, that is. Then we search for them pretty diligently, don't we? No, the signs in the readings today are the historical events, the people, the miracles, and even the numbers in the readings that point us to something beyond themselves. For that is what signs do, don't they? And whatever the sometimes considerable significance of the historical events, the people, and the miracles were at the time, as signs they take on additional significance. For they serve to point to someone or something else. They signify a reality larger than themselves. Like the first rainbow in the clouds that Noah saw. As beautiful as it was, it also pointed to a larger, even more significant reality. Namely, to the covenant God made with Noah, never to destroy all mortal beings again by water. And every time we see it, we're reminded of that covenant. You see, the signs God gives are meant to be a constant reminder of the eternal significance of events in history, as well as the eternal significance of events in our lives. For everything that happens to us is significant in the light of salvation history. Every event, whether good or bad, whether it seems that way to us at the time, is a sign pointing to the personal redemptive activity of God in our lives. Sometimes the significance of a sign is obvious and easy to understand. Sometimes it's subtle or hard to understand, or perhaps even hard to accept. But each sign is packed with meaning. The signs in today's readings point to God's redemptive activity in two areas, namely our purification and preparation. The second reading, for instance, very clearly states that the flood is a sign of our baptism. And what else is baptism than a purification from sin? In fact, anytime you read about water in the Bible, it's almost always a sign of purification. Pharaoh's army being destroyed by the waters of the Red Sea after the Israelites passed through on dry ground is a historical event that serves as a sign pointing to something of eternal significance: sin being destroyed by baptism. Numbers in the Bible are signs too. The number 40 figures prominently in the Bible as a sign of both purification and preparation. The rain fell for 40 days and 40 nights during the flood, thereby purifying the earth of sin. The Israelites wandered for 40 years in the desert until they were purified of the desire to return to Egypt. And this historical event serves as a sign pointing us to our need of being purified of concupiscence. That is, our desire to return to sin, even though we've been freed from it by baptism. This clearly has eternal significance. As a sign of preparation, Moses spent 40 days on Mount Sinai to prepare to receive the 10 Commandments. And in the gospel today, our Lord spent 40 days in the desert in preparation for beginning his public ministry. Oh, by the way, how many days are there in Lent? Right, 40. So following the lead of the readings today, we should consider Lent as a time significant for its own sake, but also a time with eternal significance. It's a time of purification, which we can accomplish by going out into the desert, as it were, where by the traditional Lenten penitential practices of fasting and denying ourselves, we strengthen our ability to resist the desires of the flesh. But it's also a time of preparation through prayer and thanksgiving and almsgiving, through our beautiful Lenten devotions and good works. But this begs the question, what are we preparing for? The joy of the Easter resurrection, certainly, but just as our Lord spent 40 days in the wilderness preparing to begin his public ministry, so too are we called to prepare for our ministry. For we too are signs for our family, our neighbors, our culture, and the world. We're not signs like what they might first think of, like street signs or billboards or signs on buildings or businesses. But the truth is, our world is lost and doesn't know which way to go and is searching pretty diligently for a sign, don't you think? You see, our lives are not our own. We are not here for our own sake, but rather we are here so that our lives might point to, might signify something bigger than ourselves. Like the bow and the clouds that point to the covenant God made with Noah for all to see, our lives too are a covenant of love with God for all to see. We are here as a sign to everyone that their lives have eternal significance, and that the covenant of love God made with us through our Lord Jesus Christ is a covenant he wants to make with them as well. You see, we are signs of that covenant.